To be in a position to support the elevation of other trans voices is so important to me and to the work that I want to do. Hi.
Hello.
Oh my God, look at you. I love, live, breathe, honoring the power of being trans. I love that we have gathered here young folks who also are living that every day. And I just think in a time when we have like all of these conversations, we don't actually hear from young trans folks. So today we're gonna cut through all of that and hear directly from the source. Over the last year, we have seen an unprecedented amount of anti-transgender legislation introduced across the country, particularly targeting youth. In the interest of centering their voices, we have created a space to hear directly from young trans and non-binary folks about what brings them joy.
My trans joy is creating celebratory representations of members in my community.
What obstacles stand in their way.
Anyone telling your story for you and then telling it wrong, how do you contend with that?
And what we can do to fight for their future.
In every culture, trans kids will keep coming out. Will they be supported or will they be harmed?
I'm Raquel Willis, and this is Logo's first ever Trans Youth Town Hall. I mean, what does it feel like to kind of have people who are not you constantly talking about your experience?
It's aggravating.
I just get very frustrated.
It's a little scary. And a lot of legislation that's being put into place is really affecting us.
It's hard because they just don't get it.
It's infuriating because it leads directly towards violence.
It's frustrating, right? Like, a lot of times when adults are having these conversations without us in the room, they miss all the nuance that makes our experiences so beautiful.
And it makes us real.
Yeah.
It puts something in front of your eyes for you to see it. You're seeing someone living their life as a trans person.
That's why I think it's so important for trans people to speak out like this. When we do that, that's how we're seeing this change.
For this special, I had the opportunity to speak with some amazing trans and non-binary youth about trans joy and what is standing in the way of it. Today, I'm hoping we can talk about what we can do to fight for it. To my left is actress, writer, and producer, Jen Richards. Welcome, girl.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to see you, Raquel.
We also have Dominique Morgan, who is an award-winning activist, artist, and TEDx speaker who serves as executive director of 2 nonprofits. Woo child. Welcome. And last and definitely not least, one of my good friends, Chase Strangio, who is the Deputy Director for Transgender Justice with the ACLU's LGBT and HIV Project. Welcome.
Thanks, Raquel.
So, what we're gonna start off with, since this is all about trans joy, what does trans joy mean to you? And why do y'all think it's so important for us to center that narrative?
This is Trans Joy, gathering in space with other trans people. And it's important because probably the greatest counter, the greatest rebuke to all of the anti-trans legislation or systemic issues or lack of representation is us being ourselves in our joy, in our enthusiasm, and our love and support for each other.
You know, I feel like I've experienced my most powerful moments of trans joy in Black trans spaces. I used to think only in the bad times did I learn a lesson. And it could be the most casual space with Black trans people, and I walk away with a new understanding of not only myself, but community, because you realize the connection.
In so much of my work, all I hear all day is how harmful it is to be trans. That is the opposite of what my experience is.
We're proof that that's a lie. You know, we take something that's supposedly so completely immutable, our gender that you're assigned at birth, and an entire system is propped up to maintain you in that box, and we say, no, I want something better, I want something different. And we come out shining on the other side. I think it's a powerful metaphor for the rest of the world.
I'm just, even in this moment, having this generative experience, which is that I can remember the fact that there was no version of my present self that I could have imagined 10 years ago or 20 years ago, which means that there's some future self that I can't imagine today. And I think that is informed by transness and the joy and the generativeness that comes with it.
I want to jump into one of the hot button issues that we always hear about, sports. I'm not a sporty girl. I played baseball like one season and got smacked in the face, and then I didn't pick one up ever again. But by show of hands, like, who is really into sports? Okay, all right. So Ali, which sport do you love the most, and what do you love about the game?
Well, I tried a lot of sports. I tried everything. I loved it all, but everything kind of seemed gendered. I tried gymnastics, which I loved, but it was very gendered once you got more into it. And then I found parkour, which I love. It's basically genderless gymnastics, but better.
What about you, Finn? What's your sport of choice?
Definitely my sport of choice is soccer. I've been playing for a really long time, thanks to my dad. I always felt like it was like super gendered, and I haven't played in a really long time.
I think my favorite part about field hockey is the community that I build from it. And I think the biggest thing is that, like, when we're on the field, me being trans isn't an issue. We're just players, we're friends. We just want to win, I guess.
Totally. Like, if you could play, you could play. And that's something that I found in hockey, is that, like, once I get all my gear on, I'm like all bulked up walking out onto the ice. I'm not judged as anything except for my performance. It's been interesting. Like, when I came out to my hockey team, everyone was unbelievably supportive. But then you grow up a little bit, shifting into high school sports, and high school sports were really one of my biggest struggles within my identity and just in my life. It's a group of high school boys who gets together, and it's just kind of like a little boys club. I was never like gonna be someone who's going D1 for sports or anything, so luckily for me, I don't really have to face any of the harsh and restrictive bills that you might have to at some point.
It is insane how taxing that must be on someone who just wants to do something that they love, do something that is good for them and be a part of a team and have that spirit.
A lot of the science saying that there's problems with trans people doing things and they'll have unfair advantages. There's plenty of other research out there that says otherwise, right?
Why aren't we talking about the fact that I'm 5'6", 5'7" on a good day?
Right.
I'm not playing basketball.
Right.
I think that there are a lot of issues that people just pass over just to marginalize and target trans people.
Exactly. It's absurd at some point because some of these people haven't met like a trans person in their life. I mean, I'm not that good at field hockey. I'm not dominating anything.
It feels amazing to me whenever I'm running. I love running because it's a sport my whole family does. I started running when I was 5 years old with my mom, and I was very excited to try out for the girls' cross country team so I could grow and make new friends. There was a bill that passed that stopped me from running with the girls. It just hurts to know your favorite thing is getting took away from you. I think it is unfair that transgender kids do not have the same opportunities as any other kid.
Chase, I want to jump in with you. Can you provide some context as to why we're seeing a surge in sports bans and some of these other pieces of anti-trans legislation?
It's important to just start with the fundamental premise that this isn't about sports. This is about control, this is about exclusion, and this is about discrimination. And they're targeting sports because they were unsuccessful in targeting bathrooms. And what's so disheartening is to watch this conversation take off under the guise of protecting women and girls when what it's doing is harming young people. And we know that that's what it's doing.
And all coming from people who have never spoken up in defense of women's sports
Notably,
prior
yes.
to this.
You asked the why. I think it was an intentional activation of the masses because cis men weren't caring about reproductive justice and those issues. You hear them in mass talking about someone who wants to bobsled. Like, child, if somebody wants to fly down a hill in snow, Let them children have it.
It's not even in response to an actual issue. There was no problem with trans people in bathroom. There was no problem with trans people in sports because, like with most people, most of us are not great athletes. Most athletes aren't great. At the high school level, most athletes are there just to have fun, to be physical, to get a workout, to have friends. So it's these right-wing organizations that are trying to create an issue that wasn't there before and only became an issue when they lost the fight for gay marriage and had to justify their own fundraising and continue their work.
I want to go around just really quickly and ask, what is your favorite thing about being trans? Finn, let's start us off.
I would say like the freedom of being able to express like who I am with no shame anymore, and no guilt of letting other people down.
I'd definitely say having an expansive viewpoint, just because it opens up a lot of really interesting conversations and nuanced perspectives that you wouldn't have expected. And I love that a lot.
I think being able to share my story and also hear other people's stories, because you are being vulnerable with them, that encourages them to be vulnerable right back. And you meet so many people and you find out things that you never would have found out before. So yeah, that.
I'd say hands down, it's been the people I've met. I built some of the strongest connections with other trans people and other people within the community. So definitely the people.
It's the community. Yes, there is some people who do not like trans people and don't support, but then there's the whole community, LGBTQIA+, all those people who support and love you, and you just feel so great around them. You just feel so loved, and you feel safe with them, and it's great.
That's the history of our community, right? It's like when we've had all of these spaces where we couldn't be ourselves, like we were able to kind of find each other, find the warmth, like this space right here.
I think our ability to go so heavily against such a system that has been outlined and spoon-fed to us really articulates just how strong and determined and incredible we are.
In part 2, we'll unpack Republican lawmakers' attempts to ban gender-affirming health care for trans youth, the toll that takes on these young people's well-being, and how, in the face of it all, they still maintain an optimistic outlook.